Now I think we're live whenever.
All right,
Okay.
everyone, and we are back. We have another list for you guys. Internations, which is based in Munich, is the largest global community for expats. It's kind of a resource and just a system for various things for people interested in living abroad or actively living abroad. So they have
Yeah,
a list of the best and worst cities for expats.
yeah. I spend a lot of time looking at Internations resources. They're really great. Really, really large community. Did you say they're based in Munich,
Yes,
Germany? Is that what you said? Okay.
yes,
Cool, cool. Go
yes.
on. All
And
right.
so, and for you, that's particularly relevant. So, absolutely.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the last couple of decades, I've spent, well, maybe that's too many, but for the last 10 years or so, I've spent a lot of time thinking about living abroad, imagining.
Absolutely.
As you said, Chuck, this is a recent, this just dropped, I think, in the last couple of weeks, and it is their uh, user created rankings based on their community surveys. And they do say that they had over 15,000 survey responses.
Yeah.
So that's pretty large pool. But they did only include 66 cities in these rankings because they wanted to make sure they had at least 50 responses before they included a city. And so there are many cities, many global cities not included in these expat rankings. So that's something important to bear in mind.
And there's also that question of which section of the city, all of that stuff. So there's a lot of kind of moving parts with this, but it's still, I think, interesting and probably tells us some things, at least for the cities that did well.
Yeah, at least for the people who wanted to respond,
Yes.
what they felt about their living situation in these different cities around the world. Everything from work life, quality of the city of urban living, the transition. It looks like, so these are the four topics that I say: quality of urban living, getting settled, the work life, and then finance and housing are the four areas that they essentially pooled ratings from all of their participants.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. I think the major thing that stands out here is Spain just really, really does well. So they have the top two. Valencia is, of course, at number one overall, and Alicante is at number two. But then Malaga is at 6, and Madrid is at 9. So they're really well represented in this list.
Yeah, and I think so. So you're just gonna go ahead and reveal the top city. So
Yeah,
yeah, um, definitely not just Spanish cities scoring very well, but the mid-sized Spanish cities, small to mid-sized cities, really coming out nicely in the quality of life area.
Yes.
I think I did see that their weak spots were generally the work opportunities, but from a quality of life standpoint, it seems like these are the best cities for expats.
Well, they're affordable, they're safe. The weather is virtually ideal. So I find it hard to argue with, and really even when you look, Lisbon, of course, is represented there and kind of in a similar kind of region, So
Lisbon at number 3, correct? Yeah.
So, what else do you notice?
Yeah.
Or is there anything else that stands out to you?
Well, I mean, let's just go through the list.
Okay.
I guess we can go backwards then, or forward. But Lisbon at 3, which is really a city that I'm very interested in. I'd like to get over there and spend some quality time there before it probably already had its peak for expats. Recently, and it's kind of
gotten a little more expensive, all that stuff.
Apparently, prices have skyrocketed in Lisbon, over the last decade. So, and Valencia as well is on the small side for me personally, but but yeah, for cost of living and quality of life, that it's very seems very appealing on paper. So
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
to get to.
absolutely.
And taking us to number 4, which is another city that I've never been to, but done a lot of research on, and I would certainly like to give it a try for some time, is Panama City
Yeah,
here in
and that's
Central.
our North American leader here. So
Right.
yeah,
Panama City seems to be seems to have a lot of modern amenities, and
right.
seems to offer a lot that a Westerner would, the comforts that a Westerner would like to enjoy, um, and sort of is a commercial capital for that region.
Yeah, they seem to also be more open to international residents and kind of like expanding to foreigners than perhaps a number of Latin American cities in general. I mean, of course, it's not like there is the only one there, but it is a place that I tend to think has more of an open door thought process, maybe just because having the shipping and trade there has been such a central part of its identity. So
Right. Yeah, to your point, Panama as a nation, they have very, very attractive retirement visa options, I guess, like pensionado visa. So it's very easy to qualify. It offers a lot of sort of financial incentives because you get discounts and things of that nature. So
yeah,
it's a very, very, for that reason, it's a very, very attractive place for retirees who seem to flock there. And a lot of them actually don't go to Panama City, although if you want the really urban center, you're in Panama City. But a lot of them,
yeah,
because cost of living can like be cut in half or more
yeah,
outside of Panama City, and you can live on the beach. There's plenty of coastline in Panama away from Panama City. So for that reason, I mean, there's tons of retirees. It's a very, very attractive place for retirees.
right,
But
right,
on top of that, if you're not a retiree, if you are just somebody interested in living abroad, Panama, as you're saying, is very, very welcoming. They have a friendly nations visa option, which makes it extremely easy compared to many other places. It makes it very easy to relocate there if you come from one of these friendly nations.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's quite a lot of them, and America being one, obviously. And so it makes things very simple. It makes things very attractive to move there, to do business there, to make your life in that country. I have heard that maybe this friendly nations visa will be changing or going away in the nearish future, so that is
okay,
something to look out for. But yeah, I just
yeah.
maybe went a little too deep on that. But yeah, since you mentioned how Panama seems to be a very friendly and welcoming place for expats, the policies reflect that.
No, it's interesting to know about the friendly nations visa and kind of to get some more context and why it did so well. I mean, I think for me, if nothing else, there's a nonstop from there to Tampa, and so it's maybe just puts it a little more on my list then, at least to scope
Yeah,
it out for a weekend.
I'm very, very interested, as you know, in checking it out. My perception, again, since I've never actually been there, my perception is that it's, in a lot of ways, it's a very, very, it's kind of a reflection of America,
Yeah,
United States of America, and so you can like, if you're very American, then it's one of the easier transitions if you're
gotcha.
looking at somewhere in Latin America, right? So
Yeah,
yeah. All right. So moving on to number 5 is Singapore,
yeah,
and a city state that I know well. That certainly I believe is a great place for expats. Really, the primary negative would be the cost of living, and but that said, for expats, if you're lucky enough to be sort of on an expat package or have an expat position in Singapore, then you are compensated extremely well, where
yeah,
the
yeah.
cost isn't really that much of a concern. So it does make
Absolutely.
sense.
So it's very expensive, but it pays well for people that are able to seek foreign work opportunities there.
Yes. Oh, speaking of that, I will mention the Internations says that this entire survey was completed before COVID really took hold. It was around March, so it was kind of
Yeah,
the earliest stages of COVID
interesting.
before we really saw the full effect of it. And and so they wanted to make that point because things may have changed. This was pre-COVID, more or
Right,
less,
right.
when
Yeah,
these surveys were conducted. And definitely in Singapore, the landscape for these expat jobs has changed a lot. The Singaporean
oh,
government,
absolutely.
justifiably so, the Singaporean government is really focused on providing as many jobs as it can for locals and for citizens. So the bar, I guess, the barrier to entry for getting expat positions has really been raised quite a bit now,
Yeah,
and supposedly maybe to some degree also the attitude towards expats is souring somewhat.
gotcha. Yeah,
So that may change where Singapore will be next year if they
yeah,
do the.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So okay, number 6, you mentioned Malaga.
yeah.
Or Malaga, I don't. I'm not
I
sure.
don't know a whole lot about it. I mean, I know it's in a beautiful region, Andalusia, but other than that, I can't say a whole lot. But I mean,
It's I don't know much about it either. I have done some research though because it has been recommended to me many times when I talk to people in Europe and in Spain about my personal sort of preferences. Um, I have heard Malaga a handful of times as sort of a place to look at that might be like overlooked. Um,
yeah, yeah,
it's a smaller place. I think it's a little over 1 million population for its entire region.
yeah.
Um, but it at least has a very nice reputation to people in that area. So
Right, right.
it's a place worth looking into.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
Number 7, we talked about this city earlier when we were talking
yeah,
about security rankings, is Buenos Aires.
yeah. Well, that to me, that's really the most significant. Well, I guess Singapore, obviously, that and Singapore are probably the most significant global cities within this list. I mean, and that's a number of them that we've seen so far are smaller places, but I think Buenos Aires offers a lot at a relative bargain compared to many global cities.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. On paper, it has a very, very low cost of living, which is extremely attractive for a city that offers as much diversity and and amenities that it does.
Yes. Yes.
Cultural amenities. Okay, number 8, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know the Petronas Towers because that was designed by IMP. Or, wait, no, it wasn't designed by IMP. I'm sorry, it was designed by Cesar Pele, who designed the Key Tower in Cleveland. But again, other than that, I don't know a whole lot. Other than that, it is pretty closely linked to Singapore in terms of geography and
Right.
travel and stuff.
Now, Malaysia is my motherland. I have spent a good amount of time in Kuala Lumpur. It's a nice city. It has its positives and negatives, but it definitely fits in to
Yeah.
this narrative of like a nice place with Western amenities, Western comforts at a very affordable price.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's the strength of it, I think, compared to Singapore.
Yeah, correct. It doesn't have that kind of business presence that Singapore does. Certainly not the salary and wages.
Yeah.
So if you're probably the average expat in Kuala Lumpur is earning much, much, much less than the average in Singapore, but the cost of living is very low. You still have an amazing, diverse international mix.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely see how this fits in there. And
yeah.
All right, so number 9, we had another Spanish city, Madrid, the capital.
Right. Yep. So that's Spain did very well there. Again, I think maybe compared to not so much global cities, but at least European cities, I think it did. It had a pretty good showing there.
Right.
So
yeah, and again, not surprising for me, another city that I really, really am interested in, that I could imagine living in. So
Yeah.
yeah, all right. Number 10 is Abu Dhabi. So
Yeah.
the younger sister, or I don't know.
Of Dubai, yeah. So it kind of it outshined its more well-known neighbor there, and this isn't the only list where we've seen it really. Kind of, I think, surprise.
Abu Dhabi is smaller, but maybe a higher concentration of people doing exciting things. I think Abu Dhabi has a lot of sort of cutting edge of certain technologies and sustainable tech, things like that. I know there's a lot of effort going on in that industry, as well as education for that. So, I don't know much about it. I spent a little time in a layover there once. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard people that have lived there, and I think the salary is generally pretty well there, or competitive, and expenses aren't out of control.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So we can just briefly glance over all the middle cities, see if there's anything that you would want to point out. Dubai, so as we're mentioning, sibling of Abu Dhabi, Dubai comes in at 20. There's definitely a huge expat presence in Dubai. And my son is is hoping to come in and see us. I see Ho Chi Minh City. Otherwise, it's Saigon at number 19. Another
22.
Along with Kuala Lumpur, another sort of affordable Asian metropolis with a lot of excitement and a lot of upward potential.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, in London, kind of down the list, I guess, beyond in kind of as a major city standpoint, the truly global cities didn't necessarily shine on this list.
Yeah, I mean, you can just kind of assume that these cities are lower in the rankings because of sort of the cost and maybe just the struggle with sort of that extreme urban living and the costs. That aspect of it. Tokyo as well, coming in 53, just behind them. I tend to think, I guess, that a lot of people in those cities, a lot of expats in those cities, there's a higher chance that they're there for the work, for the money, for the salary, and so.
Well, and also there's more headaches to deal with potentially there, with because it's a tourist city, so it might not be the ideal visitor city in a sense,
Right. And so even if there are plenty of people who enjoy living there, I think you and I would be among those people.
Yes.
If you just take the average expat who's landed there for the great job or whatever, there's a higher chance that they would have a more negative feel.
That
city.
So in Italy Rome and Milan perform very poorly. So in that sense, it's interesting that Spain does so well, but Italy just does not seem to do well at all.
Athens is down there also. All right, so looking at the bottom 10, we can go over these briefly.
There we go.
So actually at the bottom 10, there's first star cities. You have Hong Kong, you have Paris, Seoul, which is a little surprising. I think Seoul seems to be I think a very high.
It comes to mind as a place I would want to live easily. So it's a question of who your respondents are in a place like that.
Right. So you were mentioning the Italian cities. I didn't notice. So Milan and Rome both came in the bottom 10.
So any other thoughts as we close out, or before we close out?
No, I think I guess really need to get over to Spain.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I have a very limited experience there, but I mean, this list seems to speak for itself.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah. So, all right, have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yes. Bye.